Alright guys, so in this video we're going to look at links and images, and what I've done here is I've made the browser smaller so that I could fit it on the same screen as the editor so that we can see what's going on at the same time, because we have auto reload with live server. And I won't do this for every video, just the ones where we don't need a lot of real estate in the browser window here. So let's go ahead and create a new file. I'm going to call this 05_links_images.html. All right, and I'm just going to close this up to give us some more room. And we're going to generate a boilerplate. And when I say boilerplate, it just means, you know, our starter template, whatever, our structure. So the title, I'm going to say links and images. And let's go ahead and let's first start with an external link. So if you want to link to another website, you can do that. So I'm going to put a paragraph in between all these links. Actually, you know what? I won't do that because I want to show you something. So a link is represented with an A tag. So I'm going to say A tab or A enter. And notice that with VS Code, it gives us this href attribute right away. And that's because every link needs an href attribute because that's the location that you're linking to. So in this case, let's link to http google.com. And inside here is what we want to put, whatever we want to click to link, like some text or an image or whatever, that's what we want to put in here. So let's just say click for Google. And we'll save this. I'm just going to add a comment here. We'll say external link. And let's go ahead and save and run with live server. Okay, so we have this link here that says click for Google. By default, it's going to be colored differently. It's going to have an underline. And if I click it, it brings us to Google. Now notice it opens in the same tab. And when you link to an external site like this, usually you want to open it in a new tab because you don't want people to drift away from your website. You're trying to show them something, but at the same time, you want your website to stay open. So what we would do is add a target attribute. Now I'm going to show you another little trick here, a keyboard trick. If you want to copy this whole line down, what you can do is hold Shift Option or Shift Alt on Windows and then hit the down arrow, and that will just copy that line for you. Okay, and another tip, if you want to, you see how I'm just going back and forth here, one character at a time. If you want to go by word, you can hold down Alt, or actually on Windows it's Control, I believe, but on a Mac it's Option. And if you hit the over arrow, notice how it goes across the whole word. Okay, so it'll go from here to here, so you can go across much faster. All right, and if you want to go all the way to the beginning, you can hit the home key. If you want to go all the way to the end of the line, you can hit the end key. So it's very helpful to be able to navigate very quickly like that. So again, like I was saying, if we want to open in a different tag, we can use the target attribute. And for a value, we want to do _blank. Okay, so we'll save that. And what I wanted to show you is, notice how the next link here is not on a separate line. The reason for that is an A tag is actually what's called an inline element, so it doesn't knock it onto the next line like if it were a paragraph, which is actually a block element. And we're going to talk about inline and block elements, I think 2 videos from now, but I wanted you to know that there are some inline elements and there are some block elements. Now if I want this on a new line, I could put a line break, or I could just wrap them in a paragraph tag. Okay, and another tip is if I want this moved up here, I can actually just hold either Alt on Windows or Option on a Mac, and I can just bring it up. I can move this line wherever I want. All right, so we'll do that, and let's put another paragraph tag, and we'll bring that up into here. So now if I save, they're on separate lines because a paragraph is actually a block level element. And if I click the second one, it opens up in a new tab because of the target attribute. Okay, because I set it to blank. All right, so these are external links. Usually your links are going to be internal because you're going to be linking to other pages in your website, like let's say an about page or a services or contact page, something like that. So since we have these HTML files in the same folder, let's link to one of these. So we'll link to the 04 typography. So I'm going to close that back up. Let's say internal link, put a paragraph, and we'll put an A tag with an href that points to /, meaning the current folder that we're in. And then with VS Code, notice that it actually shows us the HTML files that are in this folder. Okay, the / means the current folder we're in. So I'm going to choose the typography HTML, and in here let's just say typography, and we'll go ahead and save that. And then if we click typography, it brings us to that page. Okay, we don't have to put the whole like 127 001 5500. We don't have to put that in here because we're already in the same folder. So we just need that /. All right, and I'm just going to click the back button. So we can link to any inner page that way. So now let's take a look at images. So this is our folder right here, HTML Sandbox, and I'm going to just create a new folder here called images. Okay, usually you'll see this, or it might be called IMG. A lot of times you'll see that on in websites and applications. But in this images folder, I'm just going to bring over a sample image, which you should have in your HTML Sandbox in the project files, and I'm going to bring this onto our web page. Okay, so I'll go down here and let's say local image. And I'm saying local image because it's actually in our folder. It's in our file structure. You can also link to remote images that are elsewhere, and I'll show you that in a second. But let's go ahead and do an image tag, which is IMG. And in VS Code, if I do IMG enter or tab, it's going to give me two attributes. One is the source, which is the location of the image and the image name, and then one is basically the alternative text. So if for some reason the image doesn't show up, if it's not there or something, this will be the text that's shown. So for the alt, I'll just say my image, and then for the link here, we want to go into the images folder. Notice with VS Code, if I do a /, brings down this drop down, and I can choose the images folder, and it even shows me what's in there, the sample.jpg. So I want that. So the location and the image name itself. So if I go ahead and save, there it is. The image shows up. Now it goes out of view here because we have no CSS, so it's just going to show the full size image. But with CSS, we can actually change. Actually, we can change it with HTML as well. If I wanted to, I could add a width here. This isn't really something I'd recommend doing. Usually you would use CSS, but you can set the width and height in HTML. So if I set this to 200 and save, now you can see that it's smaller. And you can do the height as well. But the height will auto adjust if you add a width. So we can also do remote images. So same way, IMG, and alt, I'll just say my image 2. And for the source, I could do any source I want. Actually, there's a really good image sharing site. If you go to source.unsplash.com, and we go down here, you can get random images from a specific user of the site. What I want though is, let's see, there's a fixed daily, weekly photo, so you could grab any of these URLs. Right here, random search term. So if you want a random image like of nature and water, you can just grab this URL and put in nature and water. So let's do that. So if we go back, if I save, it's going to give me an image that's 1600 pixels by 900 pixels of nature water. Let's make this smaller. We'll say 200. Okay, so there we go. And this only works because the unsplash.com allows us to do this. They basically allow us to specify the size in here. You can't do this with just any link, any image link. Same thing with keywords here. If I wanted, like, let's say building, and there we go, we get some kind of picture of a building. I think it's it's random, so if I click reload, it's just going to be a random building. And again, this has nothing to do with HTML. It's just the Unsplash service is an image sharing service, or an image placeholder service that allows us to do this. So it's pretty cool. If you're building something and you just need some kind of random image and you don't want to have it local, you can just link to Unsplash like this. All right, so I think that's going to do it, guys. In the next video, we're going to start to look at lists and tables. All right, guys, in this video, we're going to take a look at lists and tables. So let's create a new file, and we're going to call it 06_lists_tables.html. And let's add in our boilerplate here. Close that up. Lists and tables. Okay, so we have a couple different types of lists. So we have unordered lists. And unordered lists, they're not numbered. Basically, they have bullet points, which of course you can remove with CSS. You can have different types of bullet points. But let's go ahead and create an unordered list. So we want to put a UL tag, and then each item in the list should be wrapped in a list item, an LI tag. So let's go ahead and just say item 1. And what I'll do is I'll hold down Shift and Option, or Shift and Alt, and just hit the down arrow so that we can bring these down. And let's change that to 2, 3, and 4. And we'll save this, Control S, and then let's open this with Live Server. And there we go. So that's what it's going to give us. I'm actually going to zoom in a little bit on the HTML so you can see this better. Should have probably did that a while ago. And notice that the bullets are here, and like I said, these can be removed through CSS. We can also have different types of bullets. This isn't something that I would recommend, but you can use a style tag to change CSS attributes. And there's something called a list style. And we have circle, square. Let's see, let's change it to a square. And save, and now you can see that each bullet is a square. We have disk. Save that. That's the default. Circle. Save that. So that's kind of an unfilled circle. And then we also have, actually I think that's it. And then we have none. All right, and this is something that I would not recommend doing. You want to put all your styling in your CSS style sheet. But I just wanted to give you an example of this. So let's get rid of that. So that's an unordered list. At the same time, we have ordered lists. And I'm going to give you another little Emmet trick here. So first of all, it's an OL tag. And then we still use LIs. Okay, we still use list items, whether it's ordered or unordered. Now with Emmet, let's say I want to have 4 list items. I can actually do times, so I could put an asterisk 4 and hit tab, and it'll actually give me 4 list items. Okay, so a little tip there. And we can fill these in. We'll say item 1, item 2, item 4. And we'll save that, and now notice that instead of bullets, we actually have numbers. Okay, so it's a numbered list. And then we can change the type as well. So there's a type attribute. So basically type 1 is the default. If I save that, you'll see no change. That's just numbers. We can use type uppercase A. If I save that, it'll change it to uppercase letters. If we use lowercase a as the type, it'll be lowercase letters. We can use uppercase I, which will actually do uppercase Roman numerals. Lowercase I will do lowercase Roman numerals. So just to let you know that you can add the type attribute. Ordered list is something that I almost never use. Unordered list is something you're going to use all the time because they're used for navigation menus, whether it's a horizontal nav bar or if it's a side menu or anything like that. So we can also have nested lists. So let's actually copy this. So I'm going to just Control C, copy this UL here, and Control V will paste that in. And let's say we want to have a list within a list. So inside this LI, this second one, let's get rid of that. Actually, we'll keep that, but next to it, I'm going to go on a new line, and I'm going to put another UL inside here, and let's put a LI, and we'll say nested item 1. Okay, and then we'll do nested item 2, and let's save that. And now you can see that these two items are nested, and it automatically changes the bullet point here to a circle, changes it from a disk to a circle. So lists are pretty simple. Styling them is a whole new level when you start to get into creating navigation bars and stuff like that, but we'll get into that later on when we start to deal with CSS. All right, so let's talk about tables. Okay, so tables are used for tabular data. Now, back in the day, back in, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 years ago, people would actually use tables for website layout. Before we had proper CSS, before we had Flexbox and the grid system and frameworks and stuff like that, people would have like their sidebar and their main content area in their website be a table, which is absolutely horrible. You never want to do anything like that. You only want to use tables for tabular data. Okay, if you have a list of users or whatever it may be, just some kind of data. So to create a table, we want to put a table tag, and in a table we have a head, a body, and we can also have a footer if we want. I don't usually use footers, but for the head, we're going to say T head. Okay, and we want a table row, and inside the table row, we want some columns. But when it's a heading, you want to use TH. Okay, for table head, and let's do first name, and then we'll bring this down twice by holding Control Option or Control Alt and hit the down arrow twice. And we'll change this to, let's say, last name, and let's do email. Okay, now if I save this, you'll see that these are our headings. Okay, so these are the headings, and then we want the data underneath. So the data is going to go in the T body. Okay, so we have our table head, and then our table body, which will also have table rows, but instead of TH, we want to use TD. Okay, TH is only for the heading. And then we'll say, let's do John, bring down 2 more. So Doe would be the last name, and email. Okay, if I save that, and there we go. So we have first name, we have one entry here, or one row with it, which is John Doe, and then his email. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this whole table row, and let's do 2 more. Probably want to fix this up a little bit. And we'll go ahead and change up some of this data. So we'll say Kate Smith, Kate, Jeff, all right, so we'll save that, and now we have 3 rows in our table. Okay, so pretty simple. If we want to, we could change the width. Now, I would suggest doing this stuff through CSS, but just to show you we can use the style attribute, and we can say width, I don't know, 600 pixels, and now it's wider. And it's more readable like that. But again, I would suggest not using the style attribute. That's not good practice. But we haven't gotten into CSS yet. So in the next video, we're going to take a look at forms and input fields.